Recent studies by the University of Hawaii have found more than half of the drug-related deaths statewide involved people over the age of 50, and more than 2/3 of those individuals overdosed on methamphetamines. Join the discussion as we talk about these alarming trends and how the community can help kupuna overcome the barriers they face to receive treatment. That's next on Insights.
Aloha and welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaiʻi. I'm Lauren Day. A study by researchers at the University of Hawaii at Manoa's Center on Aging, published in August of 2024, showed an alarming trend. Methamphetamine poisoning is the leading cause of fatal overdose among those 50 and over in Hawaii. 58% of the 263 drug-related deaths from July 2020 to December 2021 involved individuals aged 50 to 79, with almost 2/3 of those deaths caused by meth. And those numbers are on the rise. So what can be done at the state, county, and community levels to help our kupuna dealing with methamphetamines and substance use disorder? We look forward to your participation in tonight's show. As a reminder, you can email or call in your questions, and you will find a live stream of this program at pbshawaii.org and on the PBS Hawaii YouTube page. Now to our guests in studio. Trina Becker received her PhD in economics from Maastricht University in the Netherlands. Her postdoctoral training focuses on biomedical research, and she specializes in drug addiction research at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Dr. Mark Baker is the president of the Hawaii chapter of the American College of Emergency Physicians. He is an emergency physician at Palimomi Medical Center, which he helped to open in 1989. He founded Meth, an organization dedicated to the prevention of meth use. Jeff Nash is the executive director of Habilitat Inc., a long-term addiction treatment and vocational training program based in Kaneohe, Windward, Oahu. He started with Habilitat in 1986 and has filled many roles, including clinical director prior to his current position. And Michelle Navarro-Ishiki is a licensed clinical social worker, substance abuse counselor, and the founder of Piha Wellness and Healing on Maui. She was a founding member of Pohana o Na Wahine, created to help Native Hawaiian families address domestic violence. Thank you all for joining the discussion tonight. Thank you. Trina, I want to start with you to kickstart the discussion because you were part of the team that conducted the study. Besides some of the things that I mentioned in our introduction, what are some of the key takeaways that you want the community to know?
I would like the community to understand and to appreciate that there are our kupuna who most likely started drug use at a young age, not just methamphetamine, and they have been using, and then they're aging into drug use, and then things have got bad for them, especially with their cardiovascular system and neurologically. So it's not as if meth doesn't kill. It's not as if there isn't a drug overdose, but it could lead to long-lasting difficulties for our kupuna's health. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Baker, speaking of long-lasting side effects, you have dealt with and helped individuals suffering from substance abuse and substance use. What are some of those short-term and long-term side effects?
In the emergency department, I think the main thing that we see are heart-related complications, which is probably also the most common cause of death. I also think it's really important for everybody to understand that an overdose related to methamphetamine is not like an opiate overdose where you take too much, you stop breathing, and you die. This is a more long-term kind of problem leading to the heart not working. You can't support your blood pressure. You end up with fluid backing up in your lungs, and you die from that, kind of slow and painful.
I'm curious to hear, you've been at Palimomi for decades now. How has the patients that you see come in who either are high on meth, how has that changed maybe their symptoms over the years?
You know, I think that the symptoms are similar over the years, but the numbers have gone from a few people who would come into the emergency department frequently to now basically too many people to count. It's just phenomenal.
Jeff, you have worked in addiction recovery for a long time as well. What do you feel like we focus too much on just the younger population? Do you feel like we talk enough about the kupuna that need help as well?
I think it's probably an underserved population. We've seen an uptick in admissions in the last 3 or 4 years with this age group. Currently, we're treating about 11 at our facility in Kaneohe. And on average, we're treating about 10 people per year in that age group, but we have seen an increase in admits for that age group. Yeah.
And Michelle, for you, do you feel like you have also seen, I mean, the numbers don't lie, but have you as well, with who you work with, have you seen the increase in meth users increase over the years?
Absolutely. There's no denying. We all see it. You see it. Sometimes you're looking at folks that you don't even realize that you're seeing it, but they're there. And you know, when we talk about our kupuna, it's, you know, the stigma of getting help, and, you know, when we talk about prevention, how do we get them into care? Well, a lot of times they're taking care of grandkids. You know, there's some intergenerational things happening, and sometimes it's used to help them cope, to help them stay awake. They may have started with other drugs, alcohol, cocaine, and then they landed on meth because it's a much more affordable, longer lasting high, and it is so addictive that before they know it, they are using it more than once or twice a week. They're using every day, and you know, how do we help our kupuna? How do we truly help our kupuna?
And I'm sure we will get to that in a little bit. You touched on this, and Trina, you as well, that potentially they started when they were younger, but maybe this is a question for all 4 of you to weigh in on. Why do you think this methamphetamine is affecting our kupuna so much?
Well, I think it's because it's cheap, it's affordable, it's easy to get, and it was something that people were introduced to it a long time ago, decades ago, like when Mark said, oh, when polymomy started, and that goes way back. And so it's easy access, and then people like it, and I think that was how they were introduced to it. And there was also in our study, the death records, interviews with family members, was that the family, right, the person always did meth and they thought it was normalized, like normalized use. And it just became a thing. I think that's how it stuck.
You know, anecdotally, I have worked with kupuna who say that their children are grown, the grandkids don't visit, and so just go have some fun. You know, these are things that I've heard.
And they've started it in their later years, or they?
Well, they mix it with other things, but then again, it's the go-to. It's, again, you know, the cost and availability. You know, cocaine use, it's kind of not as widely used as meth is, but there's so many different reasons why. You know, it can be what neighborhood you're in, what town you're in, what island you're on, as to what populations are affected and how deeply they're affected by it.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm just curious, Dr. Baker, Jeff, any other factors that you would want to
I actually started, and I don't think this is like a normal thing to do in the ER, but I started asking users who had heart failure how old they were when they first started, and was really surprised. I have talked to 3 adults who varied in age from probably mid-30s to mid-50s who said they started when they were 13. One who was 9 years old is the very youngest, and then it kind of goes up from there. It's become multi-generational. It's
Yeah, and if you grow up in a household where it's normalized, that's kind of the thing to do. It's, as said before, it's very inexpensive. It's easier to access than most other substances of abuse, other than alcohol, of course. and it's very, very addictive. It's very hard to, once you start taking it, it's very hard to stop. So once you're introduced to it, you're kind of on a path to nowhere.
Has it gotten more dangerous over the years, methamphetamine?
It has. It's gotten more dangerous because they've refined it more to where it's more addictive. And we were talking earlier, now they're putting other substances in it. It's not too uncommon to find methamphetamine with fentanyl in it these days, or other substances with fentanyl. So that makes it very dangerous as well.
Dr. Baker, can you also weigh in on the long-term effects? How does taking meth, how does that affect your brain, your emotional, mental health, physical health as well, long-term?
Right. You know, the general physical health suffers. And I think the number one thing that we see people in the emergency department with is heart-related problem with fluid that builds up in the lungs. But probably the number two is psychiatric illness, anxiety, kind of depression, feeling like, you know, one thing that is really, I don't know if we understand, but where people feel like there are bugs crawling out of their skin, and they'll look at me and they'll point at a piece of lint and say, there, can you see that? And so cardiac and mental, but then also teeth and multiple organ systems.
And can it be reversed, all of those side effects? Is there treatment for it?
There is, unfortunately, there isn't good treatment, and there's not a good, kind of like buprenorphine for the opiate user can help, but there isn't presently any real good methamphetamine medical treatment.
What we see over time is that if somebody finds abstinence, after a prolonged period of time, their brains begin to function normally again. There's a period that we call anhedonia, basically after you stop using drugs, where your brain doesn't produce enough chemicals to just feel good anymore. And sometimes it takes a year, 18 months for that brain chemistry to come back online at a rate that, you know, is more normal. So, you know, it takes a long time to get back to normal. And in some cases we see it does lasting damage where, you know, there's psychiatric problems that continue on.
And I think that another to point out specifically for the kupuna is that there could be, so the symptoms like of too much meth use long term could be masking, let me put it the other way around. It might be dementia, but it's not. So the symptoms of dementia could be masking, like the side effects of long-term meth use among the kupuna.
Could lead to dementia? Or
No, there's masking. There's there's all this anxiety, memory loss, and the inability to decision making. So people might think that it's dementia, early onset dementia, but it could actually be related to methamphetamine use. I mean, too much use.
Let's get to some of the viewer questions. Mike and Eva is asking, are older people who use methamphetamine buying from the same suppliers, or is it so easy to get that they can find it anywhere? Feel free, anyone, to weigh in on this one.
It's easily available everywhere. And it just depends on the individual. They probably have preferred people that they get it from, but if we were to walk down the street outside of the studio here, there's meth for sale out there. Wow. It's everywhere.
I was talking to one patient and asked him about kind of the same question, and his answer, and I won't name the community, but it was meth is like candy in fill in the blank.
But I do want to point to in the direction of, speaking of our kupuna and that the stigma, all the different things, they would more than likely go to the same place because they don't want too many people seeing, you know, going to different places and, hey, how come auntie going over there? How come uncle is over there? So they probably go to the same place, you know, same supplier, if you will, dealer.
And if it's so readily available, how is it getting in, and what's being done to try and limit the amount that's out there?
There's a lot of law enforcement, so DEA, the high intensity drug trafficking area, they're doing their best, but it's just, it's, yeah, it's just still easily available. And yeah, it's an ongoing battle to try to reduce the supply that's out there.
It comes in every way you can imagine. Planes, through the mail, on shipping containers, every way you might imagine.
You were saying people are trying to mail it into the state.
They're not trying, they're doing it.
Right, from
It's mailed
regular
in.
USPS boxes, mailing
Yep,
it in.
absolutely.
Evelyn in Waipahu, this is a question for Trina here. Were the results of the study a surprise, and if so, why or what changed?
It was a surprise because we had all expected, us researchers had expected it to be a younger person problem, that it would be younger people, less than 50, that was our operational definition, would be using a lot of drugs, not just methamphetamine, could be opioids, and then there would be, right, they would die of a drug overdose. But then it went in the other direction. It was like, it's older people.
Michelle, I'll give this viewer question to you. This person is asking, are these mostly homeless seniors, or are you seeing all walks of life dealing with this issue? How are they getting their hands on this drug? We kind of already touched on that, but maybe
All walks of life. I mean, meth use, addiction, it does not discriminate. It doesn't matter your clothes, where you work, what neighborhood you live in. And we all talk about it's on the next corner, it's at auntie's house, uncle's house, or friend's house, or whatever the case may be. I think the questions are they're hard because it's not a one-size-fits-all on who's doing it, on how we're going to combat the issues. Everybody's doing the best that they can who have their hands on it, but there's just never enough people doing the work.
I think sometimes people think, oh, that's a homeless problem, and
No.
that's
Oh,
not
absolutely
the case.
not.
There are professionals that are having problems with it. There are people, licensed professionals and business
100%.
owners.
It cuts across social class. It's just, I guess, like the professionals hide it better.
Yeah.
But I think they also, I see people who started using it and ended up homeless, ended up not working, ended up losing family ties. And I've had other family members say, I've got like a cousin out there somewhere. We don't know where he is. We don't know. We don't even know if he's still alive.
Yeah, you hear that way too often.
Brianna is asking, Dr. Baker, maybe you can touch on this. Is there such a thing as a working meth addict, since we spoke about professionals, someone who uses meth but functions well day to day? That's their question. But maybe you could touch on if that's lasting. Can they keep that up, or at a certain point will there be a drop?
Right. That's a great question. And I would refer to an Australian study and categorization of methamphetamine use, where they describe somebody who at the very low end would never purchase it, would maybe use it once at a party if somebody offered it to them, to more intermittent use, to maybe a trucker who needs to stay awake all night and tries to minimize use, and then the end of the spectrum are the patients who we take care of in the emergency department who are using it, multiple times throughout the day.
Can they keep that up, or at a certain point after months, maybe even years, they will see the side effects?
It's possible some could keep it up and use it without becoming homeless, but they'll probably still get heart failure. They'll have other complications.
Yeah, I don't think that there's such a thing as someone who can be a successful meth user, or I think we can try and stay away from labeling people by calling them addicts. People get addicted, and it takes them somewhere health-wise, or they lose their homes, their cars, their families. They do end up on the street. There's a lot of folks who have become addicted who are living with family members who also may be addicted, but it's just, it's a domino effect, that we talked about this earlier about what are we treating? Are we treating this or that or that? Or, we talked about the chicken and the egg, and it's, we gotta stop looking at that and we treat the person, right? We treat the family. And if it's our kupuna, it's safe to say, because I've heard folks in their 20s and 30s say, I don't want to use what my parents used. So they're using other things, right? And you leave the meth to our kupuna.
Sarah is asking for Jeff if you can tell us a little bit more about Habilitat. She's asking, were the seniors you were working with in your program referred to your program by the courts or some other authority, or did they go on their own?
Both. Basically, Habilitat is a long-term residential treatment program with a vocational training element. Our job is to get people off the streets or out of incarceration, treat their substance use disorder, and then prepare them with whatever skills are necessary to go back into the community. We're the largest treatment center in the state with 150 beds, so we have a lot of people to treat. But the people come to us from various different places. Sometimes they're referred from the courts, from the probation department. Sometimes they're referred from other treatment programs seeking higher level of care. You know, maybe they're in a short-term program and it's determined they need long-term programming. So we get referrals from both, and sometimes we have people just walk in and say, I need help.
Are all of those beds filled? I'm curious if we have enough beds.
They're not,
on the island.
no. By and large, in the state, we don't have enough beds, in my opinion. We have 150 beds. We have about 120 participants, so we do have openings. But we're kind of known as the last resort, the last house on the block, because our program is long, it's arduous, and most people are going to try, you know, easier, shorter term things, which is good, because if they can find a path to success without having to go through our long-term program, then they certainly don't need our level of care.
I do want to mention that sometimes at a lot of the programs, it's a 30, 60, if you're lucky, 90-day program.
And that's scary.
We need more. We need more than that, but unfortunately, you know, insurances will only pay for so much treatment. And like you said, you know, this long-term, it's hard for people to go away for a year or 2 years, to be away from their supports. But if they have been using for 5 years, 30, 60 days is not going to help. They're just coming out of the fog, if you will.
Since we're talking about resources, what resources are available maybe for somebody who's watching, who maybe they think their family member might be using? What's the first step that someone can do to try and get them help?
They can call, there's a phone number, you just Google it, it's called Hawaii Cares, and Hawaii Cares will talk to them, and then like these are all the services that we have available for different type of substances. It's not just methamphetamine, which is a stimulant. There's also opioids where there's medication assisted treatment, and they can get more information about how they could start, right? Like if they're ready, they want to change. And I think that's the most important thing. Do they want to like get help? And then yeah, Hawaii Cares.
And so what I would do, having said that, is I would ask. I would say, Mark, I notice you might need some help. Is there any way I can help you? And if he's not ready, then I'll let him know that when you're ready, I'm here for you. And then you find the resources for them if you're not familiar where to go. But really ask your loved one or your friend if they need help, and if they're not ready, then they're not ready, because you can't be doing all the work. Because if you're doing all the work, then you're doing all the work, and they don't have to do it, and so they're not going to get the help that they really need.
Michelle, do you find that there are resources, and maybe even enough resources, not just for those who are trying to get out of it, but for the survivors?
Addiction it's a family issue, right? Everybody thinks it's just the individual that has that's suffering. The entire family suffers. There's never enough support for the folks who need the help, and there's less help for the families. And so, you know, we're in Hawaii where everything is about connection, and that we work with not just the person who's suffering, but the entire family who have suffered alongside this individual, their loved one, their friend, and we treat the whole family. And some families will say, I'm not the one with the problem. But then you realize that when you have someone in your family that has been addicted to substances, that it has affected the entire family.
I'll get to a couple other viewer questions, and feel free to weigh in, any one of you. This viewer is asking, when someone is overdosing on meth and you call an ambulance, can you get in trouble for knowing about their possession of the drug?
No.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Kavika from Waipahu is asking, if the four of you know, what percentage of kupuna using are Hawaiian?
We did not, in the study, we did not track race or ethnicity, because this is difficulty too, because we have multiple biracial, multiple races, so we did not track that in the data.
And then this Facebook comment, it's a comment, not a question, but perhaps the four of you can weigh in on it based off of your own experiences working with both survivors and folks that have substance abuse disorder. We don't have nearly enough mental health detox or addiction rehab services available here. You can't just quit.
This is true.
Did this person write from neighbor island? Then yes, I would agree. But in Oahu, I think that we have a lot of treatment services. We do. So yeah, but we could, for sure, we could do with more in the neighbor islands. And of course, the neighbor islands, they have their geographic difficulties, right? Because Big Island is so big, and so how can we easily locate lots of services? That's a problem that Oahu doesn't really have.
I think
so. You're from Maui.
I'm from Maui, and we can never, we bust our butts. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that, but to put ourselves out of a job so that we don't have to do this, but we have to do this, and we don't ever have enough help. Oahu is busting at the seams in terms of getting the help for our people, and the outer islands are that much worse.
And people do come from the outer islands to Oahu all the time seeking treatment.
And that's
Yes.
really unfortunate, because it's historical that, in the field of social work, people would put their children on trains because they couldn't care for them and hope that somebody would take them off. So they're being removed from their families, and we're still doing that. Right, we're still putting people on planes, moving them away from their supports, and it doesn't work.
Well, and even here on Oahu, a lot of the programs have waiting lists, which is not ideal. When someone needs help, it's really important that you strike while the iron's hot. When they want help, you need to do it while they're motivated. And if you have to wait weeks on a waiting list, and it's because the demand for treatment beds is so high.
And we can note as well that not everybody needs residential treatment.
Correct.
Yes.
Not everybody needs outpatient treatment. If we can get it striking when it's hot and they're ready to talk to someone, a counselor, a therapist, we can start there, because you let them understand that you don't want to have to leave home. If you have a good job, you don't want to have to go to intensive outpatient 3 times a week.
Yes.
You're going to lose your job. So let's try talking with somebody who can kind of walk you on that path of recovery. Try that first.
What do the four of you feel needs to be done in our state to have more resources and get more help on the neighbor island?
I think that the opioid settlement fund, I mean, it's still not done yet, right? There's like in the newspapers today, there's like, all these other conditions like the lawsuit. But there is funding there, and we have our opioid settlement fund, and I think that could be a great way to help fund more treatment services across all the islands.
Yeah, I think treatment is important, but the focus, I think, what I recognized in watching the increased numbers of people using over the years is we need to focus on prevention.
Yes.
And getting the word out, and education in the schools. And I really like the comment from that last person, because you can't just say, go ahead and quit. And it's a little bit like the campaign, just say no. Just say no didn't work. It's what we need to do is provide like wonderful activities, exciting activities, get kids and families doing things together. and focus on doing good things instead of turning to something that might be exciting the first time you use it, but it kills you 20 years later.
The whole problem with substance use treatment, one of the problems is that the treatment models have been designed around third-party payment, which you mentioned earlier, which only was going to pay for 30 days or around 30 days. And we need more treatment options that will treat the person with the need for treatment. So if it's longer than 30 days, then they need more treatment. Right. But the funding models are very restrictive. And I agree with Mark that we need more efforts in intervention and prevention. People need to understand how dangerous this is and what road it leads down.
Also, to follow up like on what Mark and Jeff are saying about prevention. So at UH, there is now the implementation of a school-based prevention curriculum that was designed specifically for our Hawaii schools, and it started rolling out in Big Island. So it's getting to the kids in school, and it's a curriculum, and it's like, resist, don't do drugs, don't initiate, don't even start. And yeah, it's funded by the NIH, and I hope there'll be like great success going across the islands.
Speaking of the need for more education on this topic, Dr. Baker, there's an important conference coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's called and what it does?
Yes, the organization that I probably inspired and have wonderful help from a lot of people is called End Meth, and we're preparing for our third summit. It'll be March 5th at the Kroc Center, Eva Beach. The focus is on kind of prevention and getting the message out, and I think the first year we had 60 people. Last year we turned away people after 140 registrants, so we've got more space this year. And the educational information, I think the most exciting speaker is going to discuss what has occurred in Iceland, where Iceland over about a 10-year period took their teen drug and alcohol problem from way up there to much lower.
Very fascinating. I would love to hear more about what Iceland is doing. The types of attendance? Are there students? Is it other professionals like you folks in the doing the work?
It's all four of us have been there, and anybody in the community could attend. There's like some Instagram and Facebook presence for End Meth, and the sign up will be available on that soon. But it's a combination of medical people, social workers, HIDA, we had discussed.
Back to some of the viewer questions. Tony in Hilo is asking, how common is it for people to go in and out of treatment, say for decades, or can they even last that long with each relapse?
Yes, never give up. Yes, they can last. But it's not ideal to keep going in and out of treatment, because that would mean that the person was just returned to drug use. But it is hoped that in this scenario, the person is using less and not dying of a drug overdose.
There is success. It can take someone one time, and it might take somebody else 10 times. Again,
or
not
more.
a one size, not a one size fits all. And you just stick by them as many times as because that's whether they're mandated by the courts or by judiciary or their families. They're there. They're in treatment, and that should give that person could give that individual and the family hope. It gives them a break, hopefully, from, and having that, they say sometimes having that light go on, and they can see a little bit more light every time that they go in, but don't give up. I mean, when people say that they're going to go on diets and it doesn't work, I mean, do we dog them because it's not working? It's just how we look at things. We have to really change and shift our paradigm on how we look at people getting the help that they need.
Eric in Kailua is asking, how is it possible for people to be addicted for so long to meth? Wouldn't continual meth use kill you long before you become a senior citizen? Perhaps Dr. Baker or Trina can weigh in on this one.
I could speak to that. Actually, one of the slides that I've used in the lecture shows the number of deaths by kind of decade of life. And so methamphetamine chronic use rarely kills people when they're in their 20s, some in the 30s, and then it kind of increases in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, and then it actually tapers way off because they've died. That's the, Trina, you could elaborate, I'm sure.
Yeah, so the death records that we studied is showing that, and it's just pretty much there's a strain on the system if they don't overamp or have used too much, then died earlier. So they keep going, but then it is most likely then related to heart failure, or it could be a neurological complication.
So most of the deaths that in your study were heart failure or neurological?
Heart failure first was the main one, so it could have been a heart attack, a stroke, anything and everything related to cardiovascular, the cardiovascular system.
And it could be that there were comorbidities
Yes.
as well with some of these people. The older we get, we develop other
Underlying stuff,
dis-ease, and the meth just compounds that. So.
It's like a snowball effect, if
Yes.
you will. This is a question I think would be good for all four of you to weigh in on. This person is saying, I know someone who uses meth who says it's not as dramatic as they depict it in the media. She says it helps her focus. Not defending this at all, but can you talk more about the, quote, normalized use that was mentioned?
That's just an excuse. The focus is, yes, that's what stimulants do. So the stimulant family includes like Adderall, right, and it's and Ritalin. So it does create focus, but I think that we need to like be able to scratch beyond the surface.
I want to say that they're probably self-medicating. There's some other things happening, and to say that it's not as bad as you think it is, what TV says and all the things, it's a way to say, I got it, I'm good. And so that is a sign when somebody's saying it's good, I'm good, it's not as bad as you think. It may not be now, but it could be later. And so, just keeping a check on your friend or your family member, whoever that is, just let them know that, it's not about what the media or TV or what they're saying. It's the health implications that could happen long term.
I would suggest that individual is probably in the earlier stages.
Yeah.
Drug use and self-medicating. And what happens is it evolves over time, and it does nothing but get worse over time. So you go from, I'm using it to help me focus and to lose weight or whatever, and then eventually it becomes, maybe they're involved in selling it or...
But if you're focusing on something, it helps you focus. Are you trying not to focus on
something else? Yeah.
Yes,
Right?
that's a great question.
And so you're using it to mask, hide other things that you don't want to think about, that you don't want to feel around, and so you want to focus on work.
I think that actually ties into Holly's question. She's from the Big Island. Can the panel address dual diagnosis, meaning meth addiction along with mental illness, and how dual treatment might be found? Not sure if that was kind of what you were getting at just now, of potentially hiding, trying to mask.
Well, but this would go like to the extreme. That would be psychosis, because long-term meth use, brain decay, cognitive impairment, so anxiety, psychosis, that will lead to long-term use or heavy use is psychiatric. There will be mental illness.
Well, there are programs in the state that treat dual diagnosis.
Yes.
And there are various varying levels of dual diagnosis. I think by and large, most people that are serious in a serious substance use issue, there's probably underlying mental health issues, certainly unresolved trauma.
That started the initial drug use?
Well, back to the chicken and the egg, right?
Yeah.
We don't know, but you know,
8-9 times out of 10, there are some traumas, and you know, trauma is not. People think that trauma is, you know, sexual abuse or assault or things of that nature, but everyone experiences trauma differently. And so everybody treats their trauma differently, right? They use substances, they drink alcohol or whatever the case may be, but it's always some underlying trauma as defined by the person, right? So we cannot clump everybody saying, oh, they have trauma. Everybody's trauma is different. And, you know, doctor and I could like bump our heads and we'll treat it differently. Like he's a doctor, so he'll go see his doctor friend. He'll get the medication. And I'll say, I don't have time to go to the doctor, right? So I won't treat mine. I'll see him in a week. His lump is going down and he's all the things, and I can barely get off my chair because I have other stuff going on. Then I ask him, hey, how come you're getting so much better? And he's like, I went to the doctor. So I'm thinking, well, shoot, I should go to the doctor too then. The way we cope with our trauma is different. I don't have time all the time to go to the doctor. He works with doctors. He can treat. So how we deal, our coping mechanisms are very different. So there's the other thing there.
For those of you that work with face-to-face with those struggling with substance abuse, this viewer is asking, do you ever survey those patients or ask them to know what led them to this point?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's all kinds of reasons. There's not one thing. It's all over the map. It could be, you know, family involvement. It could be a divorce, the loss of a child, accidents sometimes cause substance use. I mean, it's all over the map. There isn't any one thing that leads to it.
And Michelle, does asking those questions, does that help you when you are speaking with them or their families? Just having the
Absolutely,
background?
because you know where to start. It's a starting point on how you're going to help treat this individual.
I'm also curious, what do you tell family members or loved ones of maybe how they can help or the right things to say?
The first thing I tell families is to get help for themselves, because that's the best thing that you can do. Is you know, if you tell your family member you need to be in treatment, and it's like saying, well, you're the only one with a problem. So in family sessions, I'll let them know, what are you doing for yourself? Because a family who heals together will heal together. So focus on yourself while the individual, while their loved one, while their friend is in treatment or doing what they need to do to abstain, that, you know, they focus on themselves first, and then you bring them together, because timing is so important, how you realign the family, because a lot of times if just the individual is getting the help, and then the family members are waiting for this person to come home from treatment, and it's like, okay, now that you're better, now you got to get back to work, and you got to start helping cleaning the house, and this person is just fresh out of treatment, just learning how to get out of bed without taking a hit.
Do you find that families are reluctant to look at what they need to improve on?
Why should they? They're not the ones with the problem. They're the ones who are using. But you know, helping families to know that at this point, if someone is getting help, that's not a problem anymore. This is giving them hope. They are reluctant, but then a lot of times, you know, there's groups that they can go to, Al-Anon and things of that sort, because people learn to live with someone who's been addicted to substances. They learn how they have to cope when somebody is coming down, or when they're high, or when, you know, so there's a lot of different behaviors that go with it that affect the family, so yes.
But there's another point too, for the loved ones who are seeing their, you know, them like in treatment or about to get treatment or not willing to get treatment, is I think it's important to also acknowledge that the loved one, the one who's not using, doesn't have to feel guilty that you know she couldn't save or help him, because there's all the guilt as well, especially right if the person dies of a drug overdose. So that these are the things that I don't think we're doing a good enough job of understanding and helping the loved ones, also known as the survivors.
So we're talking not just, what, to your point, getting therapy, professional help to talk about the struggles of being that person's loved one, but then also to Michelle and Jeff, your point of education, how do you be a supportive family member, right? Darian in Waimanalo is asking, Trina, for you, do the results of this study create a baseline? If so, what are the next steps for researchers, and should those who fund the treatment centers be paying more attention?
This baseline is now starting to point us in the direction that we need to think about our kupuna who may still be, who started using at a young age, and then they're aging into it. So we may be seeing more and more kupuna in treatment facilities, and then so they will need also like care, assistance, like what we would provide, right, for older people anyway. But now we need to add on, right? We need to think this through in care facilities, or retirement homes or retirement communities. We need to think about, could that also be happening, right? Substance use disorders.
And I also think that we need to have more focus on kupuna care. So maybe creating treatment spaces for them, because it would be very strange to be in a treatment setting and you're 60 years old and you're with a 20, 25-year-old, you know.
We have that situation.
And I've had it before, and it's difficult. And if they can't do their daily things, it's very, that stigma, that embarrassment, your shame. Like we want to take away that shame. Like they can be together, be in the same setting. So put more care and focus into our kupuna, that they are in a setting where they can heal together.
I think this goes back to the question I asked Jeff at the top of this show. If you feel like we're talking enough about how meth is affecting our seniors, it sounds like the answer is we need to do more of this and have more education.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, and I think a lot of focus has been put on fentanyl, but we still are having major issues with
meth is the
meth,
predominant drug of abuse in
100%.
Hawaii
Yes.
by far.
Yes.
Yeah, I hadn't seen in the emergency department opiate overdose for probably 20 years until recently, when fentanyl's become more prominent. But meth-related deaths and illness, and when you look at the numbers, it's kind of like, I think statewide we are probably having about 10 times as many meth-related deaths per year as opiate-related deaths.
Right.
And you were saying now, though, it's mixed, too. There are some people that are doing both.
They're doing both.
Oh, yeah. So, I talk with some outreach workers, and they say, because we harm reduction, right? So they give people strips to test if there's fentanyl in it. And some people are testing it because they want the fentanyl in their meth. So
they're testing it not to protect themselves. It's
Not to avoid it, but to make sure that it's there.
it's in there. But it goes both ways, right? There's people who really don't want fentanyl in there, and there's people who don't know that there is, and they want to know that there is, and they don't want to do it. But there's a very small amount of people who want to do it because there's fentanyl in it.
I hope this isn't taken as a dumb question, but why? Why are people doing that? Why do they want both fentanyl and meth?
It's a heavy high.
It's a good question.
It's
Actually, I've
Great
asked.
high, right?
Well, I've asked patients that because they're almost like opposites in some way.
Yeah.
And I've had various answers. One was, well, I like using the opiates, but I don't want to overdose. The meth will keep me breathing. And I think there's probably not a lot of truth related to that.
I was just going to ask, is
Yeah.
that true?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And then other people say, well, I kind of like that up and down feeling. It's just.
Yeah.
Vera is asking, how likely are children who see their parents using meth start abusing the drug themselves? I think, Trina, you kind of touched on this a little bit ago.
So based on research, so with my collaborators at UH, is we are finding that children are not necessarily using meth at a young age. They're initiating into marijuana at a very young age, and we're finding that in Big Island. it's normal because family members, auntie, uncle, they're passing it around, and so the kids are like, well, I guess it's okay for me to try some too. It's marijuana, and I think probably later when they're older, methamphetamine.
So it's not just that the marijuana is laced with something or combine multiple drugs. That's the starting, like the gateway drug, if you will.
Yes.
No. For me, I'm sorry. Gateway drug. I think the gateway is trauma.
I agree completely.
You know, they may start using marijuana, they may start drinking alcohol, but when you want to talk about a gateway, something that led to it's trauma. And again, trauma as defined by the individual, right? I've known, the youngest age that I've known someone to use meth is 7 years old. And it was because they had older siblings doing it, parents did it, and it's, you know, it's that generational, it's there, we're gonna do it, and they are predisposed. I don't like that term, but it's like your eyes. You have beautiful eyes, by the way, but it came from somewhere, right? So it's in your genes. So if addiction is in your genes, the likelihood of you becoming abusing substances are there. There's some people who are adamant, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to be like my parents. I saw too much. I don't want to be like my sister, brother, whatever. But it's there. It's still there in you that if you wanted to pick something up, it could be dangerous because you might take off just as your family member did as well. So
to speak to the original question, we've treated multiple generations of same family members. Grandmother in the 80s, daughter in the 90s, and now the grandson or son recently. So,
and we see it in the jails and institutions as well. I've worked in institutions in federal prison as well as jail, the community correctional centers, and there is mothers, daughters, fathers, sons, generational within in our systems.
But what I wanted to say was that in terms of marijuana, is that for children and for adolescents, the youth, right? I'm trying to shift the focus away from meth, is that they are initiating at a younger age, and also because they're young, right? And so it's their brain development. They are at that phase when they're still developing their brains, and so they're at higher risk of marijuana use disorder, and then it could hurt them cognitively. And so this then leads to the next point on my agenda is recreational marijuana legislation is a bad idea for children. Even though it's like, oh, children can't get their hands on marijuana, that is not true. So it's about prevention, children.
We have just 3 minutes left. Last question, I'd love to hear from each of you really quickly. How do we as a community create more of an environment that encourage people to ask for help? And maybe just what would you like to say to our viewers to encourage them to seek help? Michelle, you want to go first and we'll just go around?
If you or someone you know is suffering, that there is help. And the first step in getting that help is to admit that there is a problem. I think sometimes for family members, it's really hard to say, oh man, because the shame, right? But get help for yourself first, approach your family or friend and let them know that, hey, I'm here to help you.
Dr. Baker?
I think we need to all hold hands together as a state and help each other, because this is a problem that is only going to get worse unless we really help each other. And I think we could be a model for the rest of the country in doing that.
I think we as a community need to get away from the whole notion of a punitive approach to treating substance use and take a more, aloha type approach. It's a medical issue. It can be dealt with by professionals. My advice to people would be seek help, seek treatment. If the first time it doesn't work, try again, try again. It's not uncommon that somebody, as mentioned before, might do 10 stints in treatment. If short-term doesn't work, look for long-term. Try the different levels of care and continue to try and get help until you find the piece that you're looking for.
And perhaps it's never too late. to ask
Well,
for help?
for some it is, because they end up in her study. It is too late when it's too late. So
Yeah.
if you're still alive and still breathing, then you have a chance. And there's lots of, one thing's for sure, there's a lot of people working really hard in this state to try and help people overcome those challenges, but you got to want it,
Yeah. Trina, I'll give the last word to you. 30 seconds. What would you like to say?
Oh, I just want to say, for people who are using meth, and it would be great if they, go get health care as well. Like, check on their hearts, because they think, oh, we're not going to die using meth. But I'm like, oh, but take a look at your heart. Go see a healthcare provider. Don't die.
It's a good point to end on. We talked about the resources, but also get help for your mental health and physical health as well. I want to thank the four of you for being here. I know this is a difficult topic, an important topic to educate our viewers. Speaking of viewers, thank you so much for tuning in, for asking your questions. And we want to say a big mahalo for our guests here in studio, Trina Becker from the Center on Aging at UH Manoa, and Jeff Nash, the Executive Director from Habilitat. We also have here in studio Dr. Mark Baker from End Meth and Michelle Navarro-Ishiki, social worker and substance abuse counselor. Insights, quick reminder, is off next week, but please join us next Thursday for Kako, Hawaii's Town Hall, as we discuss the challenges of Alzheimer's. We hope to hear from you then. I'm Lauren Day for Insights on PBS Hawaiʻi. Aloha.
Local broadcasts of Insights on PBS Hawaiʻi are made possible by the support of viewers like you. Mahalo.